Hi, it's Bill the Geek, and somebody wanted me to tell you something, and they didn't even tell me I was supposed to be on today. Okay, so what kind of news from geekdom can I give you? Pretty much, I want to remind people of the Hegelian dialectic mind control program. It's named after a German philosopher, Hegel, Friedrich Hegel. And the way that this works is media manipulating your mind by giving you what to think, by telling you what the official narrative is. And so we've had a long visit with one of these things that they've done. And that is not COVID 19. You cannot call COVID 19 Hegelian dialectic because it came from natural sources. That is the virus family, which is a dead organism. How can viruses are just dead until they invade you and then they come alive? They're like, vampires when you give them human blood. That's what viruses are. And so yeah, they can't be considered to be man-made, these viruses. I mean, sure, it's highly efficient to design them the way that they're designed, but this was done, out in nature. Like there were, well, But anyways, it happened in nature, and it was evolution, a natural process in all the wild lands of planet Earth, and that's where this virus came. And well, no, that wouldn't be the problem of the Hegelian dialectic. That would be an introduction to science 101 and what exactly is PCR testing and how many rounds of PCR, like 30 or 40, before you get an official result, and how do they apply these kind of things that are traditionally known as like washings to do PCR. How do they apply that to the new Lester Holt just delivered the news? A saliva test that you spit in a test tube and it's going to tell you if you got the Rona or not. How does that actually happen if the PCR test? This sounds something like different. Is this like what they didn't tell us on Lester Holt exactly? They don't give you the details on Lester Holt. And, I watched it for the first time in a long time. Anyway, I did watch it just to see what their version of the narrative is. And Lester Holt finished his show by telling everybody, put on your mask and, get the vaccine as soon as you can. Don't infect others. Okay, so that's the official narrative. So we had Hegelian dialectic, which is problem, reaction, solution. So the problem is presented to you by the media. It's a worldwide problem. Lester Holt will tell you it's COVID 19. The reaction is in the population. The population goes, oh my God, I'm gonna die. I'm going to get the Rona and I'm going to die. I'm going to be intensive care and they're going to be sticking a tube down my throat. Okay, so that's the reaction. And then Lester Holt will tell you what the solution is. First solution is social distancing and masking. And then the permanent solution is a vaccine. So that's the way it goes. And that's the way this whole story goes from start to finish. Is the problems presented, you get a reaction, which is pretty much science has got to solve this. I got to go to science for 1,000, Alex. And okay, so everyone puts all their money into science. That's the reaction. And the solution is already there. They've already planned to make a vaccine. Okay, so in certain levels, this seems like forced to put a Hegelian dialectic on the COVID 19. But what are we missing? Well, we're primarily missing motive. And, given the fact that anyone who believes COVID 19 was created in a Chinese forest where um, there was a man who was mowing down on a bat. It was Ozzy Osbourne. Okay, Ozzy Osbourne was in Wuhan, China, and he went out late at night, 3 in the morning, and he went down to a parkland setting, and he just looked up with he had really red eyes. And with his red eyes, they had like infrared, and he could see the black bats flying around. And all he did is he waited for one to swoop down, one that was hungry and wanted to bite Ozzy, and Ozzy just grabbed it and stuck it in his mouth and bit off its head. And if it wasn't Ozzy, it could have been Alice Cooper, famous people that bite the heads off bats. And well, whatever horrible virus you could imagine, it was in the blood of this bat. It got into Ozzy, and then, well, I don't know. How did Ozzy spread it to America? Well, he came home. He flew home, and, well, the problem is that I don't think Ozzy is that mobile. I don't think he's really capable of going to China. All you old people remember they used to say, only Nixon could go to China. It was a way the Republicans say, if you're really, really tough with China, then your tough Republican president can go and open up international relations with the communist dictatorship. Only if a tough American's in power. Only Nixon could go to China. So only Ozzy could go, or Alice Cooper. I think Alice Cooper is in more mobile kind of health. We're both probably in like 70s now, in the 70-year-old range or something. So that's basically how we got. No, it's a total that is the National Enquirer way of explaining how we got COVID-19 virus. Something kooky. No, it was created in a laboratory. How do you know? Because there are laboratories that are designed to stop these kind of things and study these kind of things. And it's only one step further for someone to say, in the department of our army, we're going to work on a new virus because, we just got to have these weapons because we're the army. We got to stay ahead of our competitors, which are opposing armies. So, that's why I always go back to Fort Detrick, Maryland, which is the official U.S. Army place where they design these kind of things. Like where the story of HIV, where did it, Fort Detrick, Maryland, U.S. Army. How do we know that it didn't come from bats or HIV didn't come from monkeys? Because we are always going to blame humans. Because we know what humans are like. We have a vast history of what humans are capable of doing. And humans are totally capable of building nuclear bombs and hypersonic ICBMs, endless marching forward in military, ways of killing, destroying, destruction. And, so if you just somehow think that the billions, maybe trillions of dollars that go into the arms race on planet Earth, if you think somehow they're avoiding learning how to custom create all kinds of bacterial or viral diseases to give to their enemies, and, it's Dr. Strangelove, which is an old movie about how I learned to love the bomb, the atomic bomb. The whole idea is that we are nuts to think that these things are not created in laboratories. Because they can be. The technology is there. So to think that it's not being used and it's just happening at random out in the bush in monkeys or bats, that is just naive. In other news, we're going to go back and I'm reviewing old tapes. Old tapes, because I'm trying to figure out what I can learn from old tapes. Those old tapes. I'm going to go back to like the 1920s, and I'm going to look for tapes in the 1920s. Everyone's rolling their eyes and going, I don't get you. Why would you go to the 1920s to review tapes? The answer is because we don't think that they actually had tapes in the 1920s. We don't think that tape recorders were invented in the 1920s. We don't know exactly when, but we think probably by the 1940s or definitely the 1950s, they had these tape recorders. What's the point of this? It's simply because I want to go and investigate something. I'm an investigative kind of person, and that's what we do here. We investigate to try and figure out if there's any hogwash going on. I'm Bill the Geek. Tune in next time when I'm going to bring back Aloysius T. Cloxicle, who's going to describe what it's like to wear one of those fedora hats with feathers. He likes purple feathers.